she listens to and the places she goes. She is resolved to stand her ground for Christ, and she will not make any compromise. She refuses to take any part of the worldly game, because these things are all evil and they are straight from the pits of hell. So she refuses to do any of that. Another way that a godly woman and a worldly woman are different is in the way they choose to lend their ears. A worldly woman uses her ears to listen to things that are not only destructive in its content, but are also pleasing to self. She is deaf to the call of God and cries of those in need. You see, she chooses to listen to dirty music and unwholesome conversations because it pleases self. I know that there always seems to be that question, if I'm not saying that, or, then I'm okay. But I'll tell you one thing, this is my belief. If you are standing there and you hear somebody else talk about someone else, then you're an equal participant. You are standing there in agreement. That is my belief on that. You may have a different take. But if you hear dirty words coming out of somebody's mouth and you stay around to listen, then obviously you're agreeing because you had enough strength to sit there and listen. That's what I think. All right? A godly woman, however, she recognizes the danger of what she lends her ears to. She filters her hearing so that she can clearly hear the voice of God and the cries of those in need. Understand that a godly woman is human and is not deaf to cries of self. However, she chooses to be inattentive to those cries by listening to the Word of God. And what does a worldly woman listen to? She listens to the voice of the world. What is that voice? It's please self, God to make self happy. She does not hear the cries of those that need her. She does not hear the voice of God at all. All she can think about is herself. So it's typical of her to sit there and listen to conversations with profanity, gossip, and vulgar language. It's very typical to listen to those things because all she can think about is just herself, and she wants to do things to build herself up. However, a godly woman filters out the worldly voice, and she tunes in to only the voice of God. She hears the cries of those in need. She wants to be there for those that need her, and she lives her life by the voice of God. She does everything that God has asked her to do because that's all she can hear. A godly woman and a worldly woman are also different in what they choose to lay their eyes upon. A worldly woman allows herself to view things that are inappropriate by Jesus Christ. And she sees no problem in looking at magazines, movies, and websites, like we talked about earlier, that contain inappropriate content, including profanity and pornography. She reasons that these things are normal for the developing woman, as we talked about earlier. But however, a woman of God refuses to look at and partake in these activities that would deter her focus from Jesus Christ. She seeks only to behold things that glorify her Lord and Savior. You see, the ungodly woman, she sees the world with ungodly eyes. She doesn't see things like we see it. When we have asked Jesus Christ into our heart and we have started to live for Him, we should change our eyesight to be that of God's eyesight. We should see danger, danger, danger. Whoa, that's questionable. I can't go over there. Whoa, I can't do that. Our eyes should be like X-ray vision. We should know what's going to be in that situation before it even takes place. A worldly woman, she only sees the surface. She doesn't see what could happen there. And even if she could see it, she doesn't care because all she cares about is pleasing herself. And this is a definite big one. These two women are also different in the way that they use their tongues. A worldly woman has yet to tame her tongue and emits belittling and other forms of unwholesome talk from her mouth. She sees nothing wrong with letting garbage such as profanity, gossip, and vulgar language be elicited. Once again, I want to say my belief, as I talked about earlier, in lending ears and all of that. If you're around people who are saying it, then you believe it. On the other hand, a godly woman bases her tongue on the verse, do not use harmful words, but only helpful words that build up and provide what is needed so that you will do good to those that hear you. She refuses to plant seeds of doubt or suspect over a person's ability or integrity. You see, when I think of an ungodly woman, I think of a fire starter. And I know that those of you who came to camp probably heard the analogy probably used by Dad that was talking about starting fires for Jesus. Well, think about an ungodly woman like that. She's coming over here. Hey, guess what she did last week? Can you believe she did that? She's getting her little group to throw some wood on her fire to keep it going. She's going over here. Guess what? She's using her cuss words and all this language. She's getting other people to throw wood on that fire, to say those cuss words, to do those things. She's going over here. She's talking about sexual things that should not be talked about. She's getting other people to build wood on the fire. But what does the godly woman do? She walks in and says, this is ridiculous. Y'all are living these cycles of continuing inappropriate language. I don't want to be a part of this. And instead of sitting there going, really? Oh my gosh, are you serious? She did that? Are you kidding me? Why did she do that? Instead of doing that, she says, you know what? Peace out. I got a life to live. I'm moving on. Y'all stay stuck over here. she extinguishes the fire, throws it on the ground, and walks off. That is what a godly woman does, and I hope that that's what you've been doing tonight in regard to those kind of conversations. A godly woman and a worldly woman are also different in the way they allow their hands to be used. You see, a worldly woman uses her hands to embrace the world and to help build up the worldly kingdom. She tempts and pressures others by serving them with worldly pleasures such as drugs and alcohol. She has no concern at all for the damaging side effects of world consumption because she believes momentary pleasure is worth it. Godly women, however, use their hands to pray for those that are being serviced by the world and to further God's kingdom by the act of servanthood. Okay, so when I think of an ungodly woman serving, the world, this is what I think. She is so manipulative with her hands. And I was going to get Michelle to come up and act tonight, but she's just too tempting. I know that y'all couldn't resist. So I think of this beautiful woman on TV with this, glass of alcohol or can of alcohol in her hand, and she's just like this, smiling. And the guy's just sitting there like, oh my goodness, she's so beautiful. He doesn't even think twice about how damaging the side effects of alcohol is, how he probably won't remember what he did the next morning. All he can think is she's so beautiful in her eyes. And she's like, here, take it. Take it. And finally, he just takes it because he's so mesmerized by who she is. She uses her hands to serve drugs and all of those other things. She also uses her hands to work for, the worldly kingdom. She works in bars. She serves alcohol. She sees no problem in doing those kinds of things because she thinks it's okay. And if any of y'all come back to me a few years later and say, well, see, what had happened was I couldn't find another job. I had to go work at the bar. Please, go work at McDonald's before you work at a bar. Please. Another example, but this example is going to be about a godly woman, is what a godly woman does for Jesus Christ. You see, she prays for those that are out servicing the world. She prays for those that are a part of it because it breaks her heart and it convicts her that these people are involved in these, malicious things. And when I think about being a servant for Jesus Christ, if you've ever worked at Camp Longers, I got 2 words for you: work week, right? And if none of you know what work week is, that is the week we have that we prepare for when you girls come in. And all we do is we mop floors, we sweep floors, and we're cleaning the toilets. We're doing all this nasty stuff that we're just the whole time going, okay, God, I'm serving you. I'm serving you. I'm serving you. And we have to remind ourselves because it can be a really nasty job sometimes. But we do it because we want y'all to come to camp and we want y'all to fall in love with Jesus Christ and know Him as we do. And we do it for Jesus Christ, not for ourselves. And that's why we should be working for God. Other ways that a godly woman can help serve Jesus Christ is by going and volunteering in the soup kitchens back at home, giving things to the homeless, doing things for all those people in need. It is important that we as godly women take the time to hear the cries of those people and not only lend our listening ears, but give to them what Jesus has gave to us. Godly women and worldly women are also different in regard to the path that they allowed their feet to tread. It's a no-brainer where a worldly woman lets her feet carry. You guessed it, to places that please self. She puts many of wasted miles on her feet to carry her to worldly environments that envelop ungodly and self-glorifying principles. A godly woman, however, refuses to let her feet take her in these places that are known to not only be self-indulgent, but also those that are questionable. She stays away from not only bars, nightclubs, and parties, she also stays away from situations that are suspicious. She doesn't allow herself to be alone with her boyfriend in a parked car, and she doesn't allow herself to enter places in which she could be faced with the pressure of compromise. Okay, for example, a worldly woman sees nothing wrong with going to one of y'all's cool high school or middle school parties. I guess that's what y'all have when y'all go to people's, I don't know. Or she sees nothing wrong with going into a bar or a strip club or a nightclub. She sees nothing wrong with that. And some of you might say, Stephanie, I'm too young to hear about this, but trust me, your parties you have in high school are going to soon turn to nightclubs and dance clubs. I promise you. You're going to start hearing about it. She doesn't see anything wrong with going in these places because she doesn't care because all she's thinking about is herself and what's going to please her.